the one and only Bucky Brooks, NFL.com analyst, man, always does a great job in terms of, the content that he provides, whether it's breaking down players or creating lists in this sense. And recently had came out, this would have been a week ago. He was talking about his 2024 all breakout team, naming some players and stuff like that. So to give context, when he talks about all breakout team, he's specifically talking about players that have not received any Pro Bowl or all pro consideration or votes or anything like that prior to that season starting, right? So the true sense of going from nobody knowing him to jumping on the scene. So examples that he had last year for breakout players that did jump onto the scene. I know Deke is going to like this one. George Pickens, right?
That was a good call. Good take by him.
He called GP. He said, yo, that's my breakout star. He said it a year ago. We all saw what GP did this year or this past season. Loved it. Talked about Derek Stingley Jr., the corner down in Houston. Played extremely well. Derek Brown, Tyler Smith. So we saw where these dudes did show up, did produce, and did kind of come on the scene from a national standpoint to make headway. Then on the flip side, though, everybody can't be undefeated. So he did have some misses, per se. Nakobe Dean, we know we're high on him. Linebacker, Eagles, shout out. Did not, become that breakout guy. Kadarius Toney. I'm sure Deke is very familiar with Kadarius Toney. I'm a Kadarius Toney fan. I like Kadarius Toney a lot when I'm playing against him. Okay? Shout out. All right, shout out. And he did name a quarterback, Kenny Pickett, just as context. And I'm sure to some degree, some might agree. Some might agree with, all right, yeah, maybe he didn't break out all the way last year. All right, fair enough.
I think it was a good article that he wrote last year. I think it was a good take. I think he had a good perspective on
I like where he was going with it, right?
It ended up being wrong, though. It's one of those things. You ever play like a game and it's like, hey, that's a good throw, or that was a good attempt, but no points. Ultimately, no points. The Kenny Pickett take was a good take. Because you know what?
And he paired him too.
You know what? Not only did I think Kenny Pickett was going to have a breakout year, let's also be real. 95% of Steeler Nation thought he was going to have a breakout year.
Talk about it, man.
A ton of the national media thought he was going to have a breakout year.
A lot of people thought it, bro.
It was a good take.
A lot of people thought it, man.
It was a good take. Didn't work out, though, unfortunately.
And when you're pairing him with GP, I mean, it would have made perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because both of those dudes, you're thinking, man, for GP to go to where we think he could go, you're assuming that this quarterback is going to have to be taking that next step and really becoming one of those breakout guys. But unfortunately,
so I like his list.
That wasn't all the way the case.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Respect. So that's why I figured we set the scene by giving some context to start it off. All right. So for the players that he named for his breakout players, specifically on offense. All right. And that's, once again, offense, right? Brought up Bryce Young. Quarterback, thinks that he'll be the guy to take that next step. I know he has a pretty good receiver that just joined the squad down there. We're a little familiar with him by the name of Deontay Johnson, so we'll see if that does give him a little added boost.
This is a bold one for breakout. Bryce Young.
Went at running back, he went with Devon Achane. That's the second RB down there, or I think he's the second running back now down there in Miami with the Dolphins. But yeah, he thinks that he'll be a guy that can have a breakout. At wide receiver, he went Jackson Smith and Jigba. Khalil Shakir. You heard of Khalil Shakir. He up in Buffalo, young cat. And then Jaden Reed, wide receiver over in Green Bay. Those are the receivers that he had for breakouts. Now, we obviously know GP is not eligible for this convo because we already have seen GP be on this list a year ago and has crossed over the breaking out.
Yeah, 1,100 yards. And
yeah, he's already
5 or 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, absolutely, he was Pro Bowl consideration. Let's not act like that won't there. Like, you can make case he could have been in that Pro Bowl as well. Like, he was legitimately there.
Yeah.
So he's definitely graduated from these tier. I think Calvin Austin is in that convo. I think if a year from now, Roman Wilson could be in these type of convos, specifically for wide receiver. Then at tight end, he named one tight end. He went with Dalton Kincaid, the young tight end from Buffalo with the Bills.
It's interesting you picked this article.
Whoa, don't do it. We're Bucky Brooks fans, man. We're big Bucky Brooks guys.
Very
and I saw
interesting
he
you picked this
named two
article.
Steelers in the first paragraph of the article. We started the article off with two Steelers being named. GP, Kenny Pickett. Bro, we just start with I'm just reading through the list, man. It's my first time looking through the
list.
list.
Mentioning of Kenny Pickett wasn't.
I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
In positive light, and then we're getting these.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know
Bills
what you're talking
players
about.
on
I don't know what
the
you're talking about, man.
2024 breakout list. I
know
still
what
haven't
you're
heard a
talking
Steeler on the
I don't know
current
what you're
breakout
talking
list.
about. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just reading through the list. I'm just reading through the list. All right. Got some offensive linemen up here. All right. At the tackle positions, he went with Darnell Wright, the young tackle out of Chicago. All right. And then DeJuan Jones, the tackle out of Cleveland. Now, I don't hate that. I do feel like a year from now, Broderick is more in that convo because we'll have a little bit more time with him versus this little situation he had a year ago. And then from there,
He might be past this list though. Like he might,
well,
he might legitimately
this
break out and like ball out.
True.
So like I wouldn't have minded seeing Broderick on this list. I think it would have been a good pick.
Yeah. I'm just saying when we're comparing dudes that have, let's see, how many games? Because I know Broderick came in.
He's like halfway.
Yeah, halfway to the back end of it, and was playing at right. So that's my only thought, is the sense of a little bit more body of it. But that's what I'm saying. If he's going to be starting from day one at left, a full season at that, if he does break out, then great. We already skipped this process. But if not, I think that he's
I'm not hurting too bad
if
Broderick excels so much he can't be on Bucky Brooks's
or even
breakout
Troy.
Team next year.
And Troy, if Broderick does do it, then maybe Troy Fautanu is the name that's up here a year from now.
Yeah.
Because that's another option as well, just in the sense of young, high pedigree dudes that have high expectations, guys that we're anticipating playing for a long time. So at some point, that's going to happen. That's why I didn't think that we would see a Dan Moore up here.
Man, DeJuan Jones was a guy that was kind of on our radar.
He was.
A couple years ago.
Out of Ohio State, big cat. Remember, he's played well in his matchups versus us.
He's right tackle, too.
Uh-huh. The big mountain
He got that
dude.
bad rap because...
How big he was.
Well, yeah, he's really big, and I think there were some reports that Tomlin was pissed off that he thought like DeJuan was mailing in some of the combine workouts or something and was getting too lazy, and that was one of the reasons he slipped too, because he was supposed to be like second round. He went to the fourth.
Because we were talking about how he was the biggest offensive lineman, because him and Paris Johnson. Yeah. And that was the whole, you want the big road grader, massive size dude, or you want the tall, lean, more athletic guy. But DeJuan has played really well.
Yeah, you hate to see it, especially when an AFC North team grabs someone like that. When
I would agree.
Obviously, we could have easily got him.
I would agree. The two, I look at him and I look at JOK and I'm like, why y'all there? Y'all supposed to
the
be here.
JOK one. That's one
here, bro.
It
blows me every time.
I called he was going to be a good player.
Yeah.
That's definitely one.
Yep.
And now, for them to get him in the second round like they did, it's a real bummer.
But you think for both of them, they had little scandals, or not scandals. Him with DeJuan, it was the weight and work ethic. With JOK was the Phantom Heart thing that they brought up like right before the draft.
Right.
So yeah. All right. Then from there, enter offensive lineman. At both guard spots, he has Peter Skoronski, obviously down there with the Titans. Matthew Bergeron down with the Falcons. And then at center, Joe Tippmann, the center for the New Jersey Jets also. So interesting, but not interesting in the sense of, I don't hate those names. I'm not tripping on that. I'm saying for us, that's a Zach Frazier combo potentially a year from now. And what does we'd have to see if a Mason McCormick, what he does in potential of wherever he gets an opportunity via somebody getting hurt, performance, whatever.
No, I guess technically Isaac Seumalo and James Daniel never made a Pro Bowl. Are they just too old though? Do you got to be like under 25 for this list?
Low key, that's a good call.
Because if that's the criteria,
Bergeron is 24. You'll
be
right.
a late bloomer, late breakout star.
My dog say, you a year 8, you ain't broke out shit. It's all right. We got time, baby. We got time. I mean, we've seen late bloomers before. It happens. I got to see the fine print. Maybe there's a 25 up here.
You know what? I'm going to drop a really random name that would fit in that category perfectly. It'd be Brandon Lloyd.
Fair, yeah.
That's a really good name.
I like that. So you go Brandon Lloyd. If it was defense, I would have said Lorenzo Alexander.
Okay.
Yep. Went from journeyman special teamer to Pro Bowler double-digit sack guy in year like 12 and 13, bro.
Yeah, so for Brandon Lloyd, age 29, I think this is it looks like year like
is this
7
before
or 8.
New England or after New England?
Before New England.
Okay.
Yeah, before. age 29, year like 7 or 8 with Denver in 2010. 1,448 yards, led the league, and then had 11 touchdowns. Just out of nowhere.
Insane.
Before that, it was a 500-yard season, 300 yards.
Who was his quarterback? Who was his quarterback that year?
That can't be Tebow, right? No, they're 4-12. That might have been Kyle Orton.
Low key, yeah. Good call. Is it Kyle?
Yep.
All right, good call.
Yeah, Kyle Orton for 13 games, and then Tebow started the last 2 or 3. That was Tebow's rookie year. Yeah.
Tebow, he made some plays that year, man.
They went 4-12. Yeah, year before that, I'm going down a rabbit hole here. I remember 2009, they started off like 6-0.
Mm-hmm.
It was Josh McDaniels' first year, and Kyle Orton was starting, and then they fell off completely and finished 8-8. Yeah, I remember that.
Shout out to Denver.
Taking me back. They had those ugly-ass uniforms, the mustard yellow and the brown. Anyway.
Let's go.
That's a late bloomer candidate right there. Brandon Lloyd.
I like that one. Shout out to Brandon Lloyd right there, man. Did have a pretty good career though on the back end of that thing.
Yeah, I looked. You're right. He had like 900 yards in New England after that. Had a couple good seasons, but yeah, just out of nowhere. Out of absolutely no. 1,400 yards, led the league in receiving yards.
So in that context, Isaac Seumalo or James Davis, they both should be in that consideration there. Yeah.
Well, I think we consider them pretty good at their positions. I don't think anyone was considering Brandon Lloyd that good of a receiver.
Very true. I'm trying to think who on our offense right now would constitute for this convo.
Breakout?
Yeah.
Jaylen Warren. If they're going to put A-Chain in there.
Yeah.
But, like, part of me, I got to see Jaylen Warren last year. Like, I know how good he is.
Because A-Chain just had a couple of flashes, and then he wasn't their premier back
the
whole time.
He had similar numbers to Jaylen Warren. I think A-Chain had like 800 yards on the ground.
He had that 200-yard game or something like that. That was his little claim.
So Jaylen Warren would, I think, be a really good name for this, especially if A-Chain's going to get it. And like you said, I don't know how much work A-Chain's going to get to have this like absolute complete breakout because they still got Mostert. They drafted that dude this year.
Right.
And then same thing with Warren. Najee's still here. I don't know if he's ever going to
still got a Cadell Patterson
get to his complete ceiling just from a production or a stat standpoint.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away his impact and what I see on a game-in and game-out basis.
Yeah.
Like, I know how good Jaylen Warren is. But for the league standpoint, then, yeah, maybe. I think if you're going to have A-Chain on there, I think Warren has just as good of a case.
How do we feel about... Well, it's because he's the backup right now. But I was like, what if Justin Fields? Where is he at in this? Is he considered breakout?
I don't think you could put him on.
He's too big of a name?
No, I don't think you can put him on just because I don't think he's going to be playing.
So that's what I was saying. He's the backup right now.
If he was starting, you could put him in.
Because I'm like, he's further along than Bryce, but he hasn't.
No Pro Bowls,
Yeah, no Pro Bowls, no All Pros.
He'd be a great candidate.
Okay.
If he was starting. If we didn't have Russ, I think he'd be a better name to have on here than Bryce Young.
Okay, that was kind of how I looked at it too. I'm like, I like Bryce, but I do feel like if Fields was the starter or it wasn't Russ on this roster, I think the Justin Fields case is just as strong for him to be the breakout candidate because everything we're going to say about Bryce, we're going to probably say some of the things about Justin Fields. Some differences, one has a little bit more of a size profile on him, one's a little bit smaller.
And I'm trying to look through quarterbacks here that maybe should be named over Bryce Young, but a lot of them made Pro Bowls.
C.J. Stroud's already broken out.
Yeah. Like a Derek Carr, he's too old. He's got Pro Bowls. Baker Mayfield.
Those who's already crossed over,
Jordan Love, did he make? I think he made a Pro Bowl last year.
Thought he did, but he already got the big contract too.
Yeah, last year was his breakout year. I'd say.
Right. It was like because he led a team to the postseason.
32 touchdowns, 11 picks, 4,000 yards.
That's a breakout. That's
pretty good.
That's definitely a breakout.
Fields would be a good one though. Kirk Cousins, no. Burrow, no.
I wanted to say,
Herbert,
Big
no.
Kirk already done broke. Allen
Geno
broke
Smith,
out.
not
Herbert.
a good name for this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hurts, no. Brock Purdy, no.
Okay, who are we gonna name? Yeah,
right. So Bryce Young might be a good name. I kind of mocked it whenever I first heard you say Bryce Young, but
because I'm literally thinking division by division.
You could go Broncos quarterback like
Bo
Zach
Nix.
Wilson.
Oh, Zach.
Well, I guess you can't do rookie, but
Fair, yeah.
Zach Wilson would be a good one. But I think Bryce Young would be a better answer
I'm
than
about to
Zach
say,
Wilson.
I like Bryce over Zach.
So Will
yeah.
Levis probably would be
Fair.
an
Okay,
answer you
that's
could
a name.
use. Daniel Jones?
But he's already broken out. Remember, they chose him over Saquon. That was the breakout year when he did it. Led his team to
Either
the
way, I
postseason.
don't think he's breaking out.
I would agree also.
I wouldn't pick him. Yeah, because then you got a bunch of rookies. Rich, you could say Anthony Richardson, but
he got hurt last year, so we didn't really see anything.
Yeah, I mean, between Richardson and Bryce Young, those would probably be my two answers. Yeah. Levis would be a name you could throw in there as an option.
But if I'm having to take bets on who I think breaks out between Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, I think Richardson.
Yeah, exactly. I would maybe say Richardson over Young if I had to pick, but
I feel like that's a coin toss to me.
Yeah, that just goes back to maybe Bryce Young's not that bad of an answer.
Yeah, because I think I trust Deontay's ability. I think Deontay's ability will help Bryce Young out. I got to see what A-Rich looks like. I see what it looks like. He's athletic as heck, though.
Yeah, he was doing good before he got hurt.
Yeah.
He surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that coordinator is good for him up there. He was the former Eagles guy with Hurts.
Good talk.
Because even Gardner Minshew has a freaking Pro Bowl to his name.
Yeah.
Sam Howell, if he was starting again,
right?
Yeah, he's going to be the backup out in Seattle.
Who's in Washington? Oh, that's a rookie, Jaden Daniels.
Lamar Jackson, Stafford, Dak, Goff, Tua,
no.
Josh Allen,
no.
Mahomes, no. Yeah, so there's...
Bro, it's not a lot.
Not a lot of breakout candidates for the quarterback position. It's kind of just like we know who a bunch of these players are already, or these dudes are just too young, like all these rookies coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, because C.J. Stroud would have been a perfect name, but he broke out last year. And that just, takes him out the equation now. Okay.
But for the Steelers, Jalen Warren would be my pick. Yeah, we can't do Pickens. Unless you're thinking Van Jefferson's going to do what he said he's capable of and get 1,000 yards.
How do you feel about Darnell? Could Darnell Washington be that dude? I would say I don't.
Actually, Muth would be a good answer. If Dalton Kincaid's on this, I think Muth would be a good answer.
Okay.
Very good answer.
You don't think Muth's broken out yet, huh?
No. No, he's a lot of untapped potential with him.
Sure.
No, absolutely not.
I like it.
That's how good I think he can be. Because he hit the 700 yards Kenny's rookie year, a couple touchdowns, but he's capable of 1,000 yards and 8-9 touchdowns at least.
Yeah,
definitely. Because even think if Ben was the quarterback instead of Kenny or Mitch in 2022, I think Muth does get probably closer to 1,000 yards and 8 or 9 touchdowns because we'd be throwing the ball a lot more. Because whenever we had Kenny in there, I know we might have been throwing a little bit more with Mitch, but whenever we got Kenny, we became a big ground and pound team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were limited to throws, so like the numbers from a receiving standpoint weren't all the way there, and I didn't care. A lot of people were caring because it wasn't style points. You remember that? People
were winning.
People were complaining, "Oh, man, we're not scoring all these touchdowns in the red zone," which of course we did want to get better. We were kicking field goals, but we were chewing up that clock and playing good defense and playing good football. I thought winning games, went 7-2 down the stretch. But just from Moose number standpoint, I think if he would have had Ben or just a different maybe a veteran quarterback, and we were throwing it more, he would have already been closer to that 1,000, 8-9 touchdown mark.
All right, no, I like that. Then I wasn't sure how we looked at Move because I'm like, I look at Move as closer to already being in that convo, kind of like how I look at GP, but not to the full extent. Where it's like, yes, you technically haven't crossed over to the next contract, the All-Pro or the Pro Bowl just yet, but if we're an opposing team and I say name the 3 people you have to worry about for the Pittsburgh Steelers on offense, I feel like Move's name a year ago was going to come up. We were going to say GP move Naj, or GP Deontay move then Naj, or some kind of, he was going to be flirted in that conversation.
You're just thinking like last year was down year for him then?
It was a down year, but it was also a lot of other stuff going on too. But that's kind of, I was just like, I just think that he's closer to
Fair
that than on the trying to just get to being known.
Right,
part.
to your point, after his sophomore year,
think about how we talked about him going into that year,
man. He was top 5, top 6.
That's how we were talking about him, yeah.
He was top 5, top 6.
And his numbers reflected that.
After the big 3 or 4, it was between like him, Hawkinson, and Goddard maybe for like that 4, 5, 6 spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he was. That's what I mean. Like Moose good, and people shit on him, or at least maybe shit on my takes whenever I say like, hey, I think he's worth a contract extension. Like I think he's a pretty good tight end. He's worthwhile to have around long term, and obviously the position ages better than running back because usually that's where the conversation comes in is whenever we're talking about Najee Harris. It's like, who else could we give an extension to? Oh, Pat Freiermuth. Oh, if we're gonna give it to Freiermuth, then why not Najee? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
It's all about value position.
Absolutely, one's gonna age way better than the other one. All right, now any offense? Let's see, because rookies, your offense linemen are still young guys.
Yeah, Frazier and Fautano
they're all
would
young
be good
guys.
answers, but they're rookies. Roman Wilson could be a good answer, rookie. Darnell Washington, you brought him up. I just don't think he's going to get enough touches.
Yeah, because I know people have talked about him, man. It was some other articles that I've seen where he's come up, and they bring up Arthur Smith because of the usage of tight ends, wanting to, have guys that can do the run block, but could also potentially provide some mismatches from a receiving standpoint. And we know with Darnell, the size that he has and even the straight line speed, those are some of the things that at least on paper would make us think, all right, maybe he could. But I also would think, like, for him to be the breakout guy, I would think that he would need to be the best tight end in the room.
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking breakout would be like 500 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah. Because I think he can get the touchdowns, because I think with Russ, I could see them wanting to utilize him a little bit more in the red zone because of the size. So I think the touchdowns would be there. That's what we wanted a year ago too.
Now this goes back to the wide receiver 2 talk. Then, if we can get 500 yards and 6 touchdowns from Darnell Washington and get what Pat Freiermuth should be getting, like 700-800 yard, even that.
That's that.
And then Pickens. We ain't stressing about wide receiver 2. We're playing football a certain way. Then we are playing with Pat Freiermuth, Darnell, Pickens out there. I guess another receiver.
Yeah,
and
that second receiver isn't important when you have 2 tight ends that can give you 500 plus yards and touchdowns. We just haven't had 2 that are giving us 500 plus. So that's why it's like, if you're not gonna have 2 of those, you better have 2 of them 1,000-yard dudes outside. And we did a year ago with DJ and GP essentially. Now you take DJ out that equation. This is why we like, all right, can Darnell do that? Because if he can, then
then you're doing doesn't matter New England Patriots stuff with Gronk and Hernandez.
Absolutely, that doesn't matter.
Because I don't even remember who their second receiver was at that point.
It wasn't a second receiver. It was Gronk and Hernandez.
They might have still had Welker at that time because that was like, what, 2012, 2013?
They went from Welker, but then after Welker, they went right to Edelman. Think about it.
But who was their second receiver?
They went through some names, but it was nobody of substance.
They drafted a dude in the second round.
Chris Hogan was up there at one point. Amendola was up there at one point.
Kembrell Tompkins.
Oh, boy, I forgot Kembrell was up there. Yeah. It was another one they drafted after Kembrell.
Mitchell.
Yeah, it was another
I think in the second round.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Ohio.
Ohio they had University. A couple of those receivers like that. It was like,
a bunch of no-names.
Yeah, but the tight ends were how they operated.
And they used the running backs a lot too. Which actually, you look at our roster, we could utilize those 3 running backs in a similar way. It was like Shane Vereen and Burkhead. Who else was up
Stephen
there?
Ridley was up there.
Right, those type of dudes.
And it would just be the combo. Then it was the LeGarrette Blount up there.
They didn't have a receiver too. I guess that's like the point I'm getting at. Because they had 2 good tight ends. They had
a core group of running
backs. They had
their
main receiver that Brady was connected to. And that group of running backs. And we got that group of running backs. We got 2 tight ends, at least with potential. Muth a little bit more proven. Darnell, we drafted in the 3rd round for a reason. Obviously Pickens. And then I like the core of receivers we got after Pickens. It's just
they're a good core group.
Yeah, it's just when you're talking about wide receiver 2 type of stuff.
Right.
Like that's up in the air.
In some situations, it's like the depth is great, But if your depth,
it all
is
depends
viewed
on
as
how you want to
starters,
play.
right? It's different. It's like that's not gonna be necessarily what you want. But if we're playing through tight ends, then all of those guys are more than capable of doing that.
Right.
But you just gotta have you gotta be able to offset that production. It's just, I mean, that's the simple part of it. If you're not, then it's gonna be like how those defenses were playing us at times where we're like, yeah, they're not worried about the pass here because we don't have either the personnel that can get it out there or the execution just wasn't there.